Great. Okay, everyone. Hi, welcome. I was just screaming at my son in the back room to let him know that I'm running a webinar here, but lovely to have you guys with us today. So just to give you some intro, this is a webinar on different industry requirements specific for utilizing the AGOA Act. This program is primarily focused on cosmetics industry, but there is obviously a lot of opportunity within cosmetics and food and other products into the US. So we've got people who are speaking that's on things that actually are assist with other industry verticals as well. Cross. So just in my broken French and Portuguese, you are able to get this translated. So we leave this on for everybody over here and just make sure that you can move across into your language as required. And that gives you insight into how to do it. So if you're joining in French as a French speaker or Portuguese speaker, please note you can move across. I'll show you again. There we go. Great. So please, as we go along, please, if you make sure that you do keep your mics muted throughout. Cindy is in the background jumping on things and ensuring that. But please, you can keep that muted. That'd be great.
Just free Wi-Fi.
Okay, great. All right, great. So just to give you a little bit of background of what's going to go on today. Firstly, I'm going to present on the program that this falls under with USAID, specifically on AGOA and support of the utilization of AGOA. We then have a speaker, Jason Sinner from a company called On Deck that's based in the US that helps African products get into the US market and various other regions. Great team they've got over there, really understand the requirements and the certification, etc., that's needed to actually ensure that your product is landing into retailers and supported by distributors in the market. Then we have Tiasa Grim from CE Way Consultants. They help with certification of your product and making sure that you are all geared up to get your product into the US market. They also do other regions into Europe as well, but they're going to be speaking on the developments that are going on with regards to FDA in the US around cosmetics and how that is developing. We will then have Carolyn Berman from Katavi Botanicals. They are a South African cosmetics company that has managed to get their products into the US, and Carolyn is going to tell us how they got their products into the region and the trials and tribulations of that. And then finally, Mariette van Rooyen from Secosa, which is the Cosmetics Export Council of South Africa, will give some insight into what they're dealing and what they hurdles that they taking to get more African products and really South African products into the US market. But this obviously is very relevant to not just South Africans, but African products in general. So, to start off on my side, I do this each time we do a webinar, just to give you some insight into what's available for you. We are running a program called Prosper Africa AGOA Eligibility and Trade Logistics Customer Support Services. It's a long name, but it's pretty much outlines what we are here to do. Catalyze is an appointed USAID consultant to really ensure that companies understand AGOA. We've got some amazing people behind us that help us with that as well. So we don't know all the ins and outs of things, but we've got a great team that supports people and ensures that you guys can get expert support on the program. The entire program consists of sort of 4 main aspects. One is our customer support services, where we have a team that calls you and supports services that you put through our Google form. We do various association training sessions. I'll let you know sort of about what's happening with those. This is actually the 3rd one in over 3 months, and the 4th will be in August, and we most likely put 1 or 2 together later on in the year as well to keep the interest going and the program running. We also have quite a lot of AGOA marketing and public relations happening in the background. So we've got various animated videos telling you how to utilize AGOA.info, which is the site that tells you all about what your products are and what they're eligible for. So we'll have a look at that. And then Catalyst runs various other programs as well. We take people to international markets. We've just been out to Summer Fancy Food, and we're doing all kinds of programs where we're driving development intra-Africa and into the US. So just to give you a bit more detail about our customer support services, it's a very simple process. We obviously have to screen what your interest is. So we've got a Google form that is there that sends out to you guys, and you fill that in, giving information about what your company is, what you're looking for, and what support you're needing. From there, we assess that, and we then perhaps come back to you and clarify what the issue is. Are you, what, if we don't understand something that you may be outlining, we'll ask questions about that and get to the bottom of it until we've got sort of a full folder and file on your company and really understand how we can support you. And then from there onwards, once we've got that, we'll either come back with ideas and links to certain things that we can support you in. But if it's still a problem and we're still not answering your questions, we do have some experts supporting us and ensuring that you are getting exact answer that you need. These experts consist of 2 key companies. One is King Cargo, helps with logistics. They've been around for many, many years. Ruan King sends out huge amounts of products to international shows around the world and does various other things. So he's really has a grasp on what's needed when you're getting your products into markets. And then Eckhard Naumann from Trellick supports us on AGOA information. Eckhard has written the book on AGOA, involved in a lot of the policies and stuff like that behind it, and pushing them through. Trellick also has the site called AGOA.info, as mentioned, and really gives you full information on what's happening with AGOA and checking eligibility on your products. As mentioned as well, we have training sessions. So we do have practical webinars on how to get your product into the US market. We started with the logistics and plannings, and then looked at sort of more product classifications and certifications. It was quite food focused on the last 2. And then today, obviously, we're doing the industry requirements, which is a bit more cosmetics focused. And our 4th webinar, which will happen on the 10th of August, will be really looking at costing and quoting. And we've got a great company called Etrissa that trains people in South Africa and allows you to get your product into the market at the right price. So we'll look at that in our 4th. But as mentioned, there will probably be some others that come into this. Just to let you know, they are recorded, and we actually are summarizing them now. We've got the first webinar summarized from a 3-hour session into 3 minutes. So you can really get a highline overview of what was discussed. And if you wanted to go through those, it'll take you 3 minutes to watch, and then you can link to the main recording and sort of scroll through as needed and find more information specific to what you're interested in. So the first one's out on LinkedIn. The second will be out later this week. This one will also be summarized over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then the 4th will also be done as well. So nice way to just find out briefly what's been going on in these webinars. As also mentioned, lots of PR and marketing going into this. We're really driving the use of AGOA. That's the idea, but obviously people need to know how to use it. So we've got animated video coming out at the moment, should also be out in the next week on how to use agoa.info and just information on this program as a whole and how to use our services. We, as mentioned, we are editing these webinar training videos, so those are great for you to reference. And there's lots more going out as well, just driving people to utilize them, things that we're doing in the background as well, going to different shows, meeting with people, driving business between people in Africa as well. Lots of awesome stuff is coming from that. And then just, to finish off on what else we do, Catalyze is an events agency and a meetings company. So we put people into meetings and take people out into international shows. We've just taken a group, we assisted in taking people out to Summer Fancy Food, where we represented 12 African brands and sourced buyers at the show and connected with people. We met over 50 buyers at the event. Really great people. So much interest in Africa at the moment. It is told to me multiple times at the event by buyers, Africa is in vogue at the moment. And that was from US buyers in the market. Lots of interest in African product, excited about things to come out. A big change in the industry as well. So a lot of interest in Black African Americans actually wanting product from Africa, but not just Black African Americans themselves interested in the cuisine, change of economic opportunities as well, just in the demographic of Americans as well, looking to buy product from different regions and open up their markets, just with the changing of industry across the world at the moment as well. So lots and lots of opportunity, and hence why we need to drive the use of AGOA and really stop people buying more things in Africa. Another thing that's come out of Summer Fancy Food is the opportunity between different African companies as well. So intra-Africa trade is huge. Prime examples, I was out there with a Madagascan company doing vanilla and a South African company doing honeybush teas and rooibos teas, and the huge opportunity there to actually package vanilla in South Africa. So great projects like that coming out of it. A lot of talk about African product actually leaving Africa and going to places like Vietnam and India and Indonesia, processed there and being sold back to Africa, which is crazy for us. So there's definitely opportunity to keep product in Africa and value added in Africa rather than it leaving the continent and then coming back at a higher price. So lots and lots of opportunities to work between African countries as well. So we're really driving that within Catalyze, and it's starting to become a real mandate of ours as well to link up people. On top of that, we do B2B matchmaking programs, hosted buying programs. We introduce buyers and sellers, both virtually and in person. We do these for multiple events in Africa, and the whole point of sort of focusing on cosmetics today as well. We're doing something with Professional Beauty Johannesburg event and getting some hosted buyers to come through from Africa to that event to look at working with some South African companies. So that's great programs, and we find amazing deals lined up off those matchmaking programs and hosted buyer programs. That's very exciting stuff. Catalyze itself and myself am one of the co-founders of two leading events in South Africa, Africa Games Week, which is the largest video game industry event in Africa for the last 5 years. Huge programs have come up, offered big publishing deals, multi-million rand publishing deals off that. So that's super exciting, and such great content that's coming out of that as well, not seen anywhere else in the world. And then we run Ocean Innovation Africa, which is a multi-industry vertical on the ocean economy, looking at tourism, sports, aquaculture and fisheries, boat building, shipping and logistics, everything around the ocean space, which huge opportunity comes out of, and there's so much more potential to come from there as well. And then finally, another US project that we've worked on for the last 3 years is Engage Trade Africa. Again, this is driving intra-Africa trade, as well as opening up the US market to African producers. It's an event that was virtual in 21 and 22 and was live and in person in March 2023. A great event. I think we did about 350 meetings on the one day of the event. There were site visits on the other days, social engagements as well on the first day, where we took people out on open top buses across Cape Town, and huge opportunity coming from that as well. And it's something that we are going to be continuing and driving in the future. Great. So that brings us to our first speaker of the day, which is Jason Sinner. Jason, if you can put your camera on for now. Just before I start, Cindy, can you just confirm everything's awesome on your side? Everyone's, I'm coming through.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Cool. Just double checking I'm not speaking to nobody. All right. So just to introduce Jason properly, he comes from a company called OntDeck. I've spelt it wrong there, Jason. You can give me a hiding of that. I don't know how that got like that, but it's OntDeck, OntDeck. So I've put one extra E in there.
Oh, good.
Just to give you an intro on Deck, I've spoken to Jason's partner, Paul Venter, who actually is a South African many times in the past. Great understanding of opportunities for Africa. So On Deck is a route to market business, helping manufacturers and brands enter new markets, specifically between Africa and North America. And just to introduce Jason properly, he has 29 years of experience in the food and beverage industry, calling on retailers in the supermarket, natural convenience store, wholesalers, distributors, club, drug, value, food service, military, and bev and alcohol channels. So yeah, we're looking forward to hearing your insight into getting product into the market. Jason, I'm going to stop sharing on my side, and you're welcome to share your screen, and we go from there.
Well, thank you so much, Rex. Cindy, can you guys all hear me?
We can, yes.
All right, let me see if I can get my screen up here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
And it says more about On Deck. Good. All right. Well, thank you once again from cold, dark Southern California right now. It's 5:21 a.m. here. So I got up at the butt crack of dawn, but I only have a few minutes to speak. From what Rex said, yes, Paul and his wife, Celia Venter, are born and raised in South Africa, came to the United States over 10 years ago, and U.S. citizens, and they have a heart for companies out of South Africa. We have a heart, but obviously me being part of their team, what we have done here is, like Rex has said, we are a route to market business. And I know this is filtered towards cosmetics, but we actually have done cosmetics in the past and have been successful with cosmetics. We had a buying team that called on different companies here in the US to get those cosmetics launched, but more about On Deck. On Deck is a consumer goods sales, marketing, and logistics business. We are an offer of a full range of route to market solutions. We are proudly South American entrepreneurs that have built food and beverage brands in the US and now helping others to do the same. We are part of the AGOA group of companies and closely associated with Miragon, and we create jobs while also giving generosity. So what has really hit me with being with On Deck is not just bringing brands to the US market. It is helping those brands flourish in South Africa. That's where I really get so much pleasure, when a brand actually gets from South Africa into the US trade, that we know as a company that we are putting food, we're helping put clothes, whatever the case may be, back in South Africa. That is our goal, and that is our heart. On Deck is part of Miragon, Argosy, Magnetic, which also Magnetic is our sister company. It's a marketing group. We also have a team in South Africa based in Kinshasa So we have a team of magnetic marketing here that we use, our sister company, and very big, large magnetic company in South Africa that does a lot with South African brands already. So what is the pain of coming to the US market? The problem, the manufacturer is one place and the market is another. And I find this quite often when I meet with many brands. The world has great brands and manufacturers that want to enter the market like the US. And there's also complexity that what it takes to launch and grow it to succeed in North America. What we do, and we found as On Deck solution, our solution is multifaceted because this is what it takes: sales, brand, private label, bulk, and multi-channel. I know Rex spoke about doing some stuff in fancy food. I've heard him talk about rooibos and red bush and doing some bulk. Well, we pretty much help get whatever it takes off the bottom of the line. Logistics, we can help supply logistics and warehousing. We have a marketing group, like I said, about magnetic. We offer back office support for billing, accounting, AR, manufacturing management. So we can actually help brands get to the US, not just get in front of retailers, but we can actually, because the cost of getting it across the water, we can actually help get it manufactured here and help set that up. We can help finance. We have access to capital different investors here. We have data and analytics. We have e-commerce, and we have compliance, what it takes to be compliant here. So to be compliant is in many areas where I know the cosmetics is, I'm just going to use the basic one. Let's just throw out UPC. So many brands have not even understood what it takes just to build the proper UPC code that goes on the back of a product. Here in the United States, it's pretty much mandated over about 95% of all retailers, brick and mortar companies. It's a 12-digit UPC, where most companies coming from other countries have a 13-digit. It doesn't take a lot of money to change it over, but we can help get that accomplished in a very short amount of time. What makes On Deck different? We are not a middleman. We build value for our clients. Value in consumer goods comes in the least part of our integrated supply chains. Our solution is not holistic because it's what our client needs. We can scale to any size by adding specialty sales staff. For instance, cosmetics, as we're talking cosmetics. We will offer, if we brought on a cosmetic brand per se, we would bring in, if we didn't have the right person, we'd bring the right person in to sell your particular product. We do not have inventory risk unless we choose to do so. Our capabilities here at On Deck: we have sales, logistics, manufacturing, marketing, back office, e-commerce. Sorry, I went over this again, but just to reiterate for all you folks there, this is what we offer. Something that so many brands are coming to us. A brand has hit us. I was on vacation yesterday, or the day before. We had a brand hit us up that was in a construction type of brand product. And so we're adapting to that. And it was good to see that, you know, my specialty is food and beverage, but I oversee the company as far as sales. And it's good to see that we have different brands and different products coming in from all different places of the world. How we work and how we scale. We have the ability to start small for you folks, but we always have to plan to gauge large sales. So one of the things we actually like to do now, is before we even get started with a brand, we'll do a market research. We will get with you. There's a fee associated with this, but we will do a very, very complex research program for the brand. What we do, we take anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks to get this all completed, but it shows you pricing of competitors, where you need to go, warehousing problems, manufacturers, and this whole market research program is something we've seen to be very, very successful. And this obviously is one of the reasons why we do what we do first, because we don't want a brand to come in and think that because it's the US is, you know, the place to be for a brand. We want to make sure that everybody understands what it takes to do business here and what your competition is here. Our business was built on a variable cost model, which that offers a low investment requirement initially. but we scale it to reach within each brand or as the client grows. We partner with the best in class industries players in order to build for success. You've got to be in it to win it. So that is where I spoke with to a fancy food group in the South African consulate a couple of years ago when I was in New York. And one of the biggest thing was you've got to be in it to win it. Brands that come to the US think immediately, and I wish this was true, that immediately you would have success. I have seen several brands take 6, 8 months, 9 months to even get their first retailer. And then, by God's miracle grace, I've seen brands take a month to get into a retailer because this is what they need. Rex said it very clearly, I think, that there are a lot of retailers that have a specific need for the brands in South Africa. I wasn't able to make a Walmart meeting a few weeks ago. Paul Venter, our CEO, went to that Walmart meeting for us. And the buyer actually said, we have a couple of our associate buyers heading to South Africa in a month and wanted to meet with some people out there when they're in South Africa, because retailers out here know that there are so many great brands and so many great things in South Africa and Africa where they want it, like Rex said. So you've got to be in it to win it. Don't come over to the US thinking that if you're here, we got you here, that within a month or 2 months, 3 months, you're going to get in and you're going to make a ton of money. That is the perfect scenario, the perfect storm. The reality is it's going to take 6 months, 8 months, 9 months to actually get in and to get some footwork and get some legs behind your brand. Some of the grocery industry winners we work with here is Kroger, Safeway, KeHE Distributors, Walmart, HEB, Whole Foods, launching in 7-Eleven a couple months ago with a macadamia company, Albertsons, Advantage Solutions, another marketing company, Jewel Osco. And I think that's, if I can just finish it off here, my email's on the bottom there. And if I can just finish it off saying that I believe at On Deck, and I know at On Deck, we have a heart for the companies in South Africa. And that's what it takes. We're not here to take anybody's money and just run with it, take anybody's time and just run with it. We have a heart for South Africa. And when we get involved with a brand from South Africa, we do due diligence to make sure that we are all winning, not just On Deck's trying to win, but we have a heart for the brand. And that's where I think that we are different from most other companies, is that when we do a market research value chain to see how the brand needs to do in South Africa, here in the US, is that we spend time. And when our time is very valuable, like the brands, is we want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to put everything on the table for you, that you understand this is what it takes, this is what it's going to entitle, and we're in it to win it. So that's all I really have. I would love to hear any questions. You can shoot me an email. You can get a hold of Rex or Cindy, and I appreciate your time to be on here. But good stuff. We're here to help you. That's all I have, Rex.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jason. We don't have any questions here yet for you, but I've got one for you to start it off, and maybe I'll ignite some others. What are you looking for companies to present to you when someone comes to you? What are you needing to see that makes you excited and want to take on this brand?
Well, I think we look initially at where the needs are in the United States. You mentioned rooibos. There's a lot of teas out here in the United States that have rooibos, but it's still not a well-known, a lot of people don't go to the store looking for rooibos, okay, Red Bush. So we look for unique items, and we look with brands that we know that have legs, that could have legs here without wasting anybody's time. We don't want to, this market is very saturated. It is very obviously very big market, but it's saturated with so many different brands. So we always look to see, all right, are we going to waste everybody's time and money here with a brand that's coming here that we've already got, 12 feet of space and all these brick and mortar stores? We're not going to do it unless you're coming in So we look at many factors, where the brand is, how many years the brand's been in existence. That is a big factor. A lot of brands are startup companies, and then they don't have the financial means, they don't have the manufacturing means. There's all different types of things, Rex.
Okay, great. And what is your usual process? You know, do you follow sort of a similar structure when starting out with a company, that you have to do a market feasibility first and then take it into market?
We do that market research program. Paul will usually get a hold of the brand, and we do that market research to see where we need to be. And it's about a 5-week program that the research goes into, to make sure that there's any type of competition out there that would, sometimes, we think we have the best price or the best wholesale or whatever the case may be, that we can get X amount of containers over here to beat that price. But we look at everything. We look at competitors, warehousing, pricing, manufacturing, hard costs, the COGS, the cost of goods. This market research program is the best way to go, we have learned, so everybody understands right up front, we can do it or we can't do it.
Awesome. I seem to have ignited some questions, so
Okay.
get ready for it. So firstly, Katema has asked, and I think you kind of covered it with talking about rooibos, but he says, I have an indigenous tea brand. What is the appetite in the US, especially plants that are indigenous at the moment?
Plants, is that what you said?
Yeah, indigenous plants of different types of indigenous plants from Africa into the US.
Well, I think the biggest one is rooibos. That is where we do some work with a company out of South Africa already that is very specific in rooibos, and we have in several different retailers, major retailers here in the United States. So I think that's the biggest one I know about specifically. I am not from South Africa. I am from California. So I can't tell you about any indigenous plants besides the ones I personally know, which is rooibos. That would be more of a Paul Venter type of question, what he would know. But you can send that question to me via email at jason@ondeck.co, and I'll make sure that gets sent out in response to you in a better way, because I don't want to sit here and say I know things that I don't know.
So, I mean, I can just also add on to that, from going to Summer Fancy Food, there is a lot of interest in indigenous African products at the moment, and more so than probably there ever was. Access to international products and sort of different health products in the US is huge at the moment. But yeah, as Jason said, it might be something that Paul could answer for you as well. Next question, Audrey, is quite bluntly, what are your fees and how do you structure those?
So email me and I'll email you back the fee structure. How's that?
Cool. And I guess it depends on how.
It really depends. It is sort of like a la carte. You go to a restaurant, you can pick this, and this, and that's how we structure it. It's a la carte. You want to pick this, you pick this, you pick this, or you don't need this, you might need that. So if you want to email me, I will get the information out over to you, and we can go over the fee structure then.
Awesome. Great. And then outside of sort of retailers and distributors and stuff like that, are you able to focus on hotel groups? Is that something that you guys have done?
We have done it in the past, in a small capacity type of way, but it's very simple to get into that arena as well. We have different people that we have access to. So it is just something that, when a brand comes on board, whatever their specific needs are or wants, then we'll focus on that. So it's very doable.
Okay. And then the same goes for sort of if it's a hair brand. Simone is asking about that. Are you able to assist getting them into hair salons and things like that? Is also under your mandate?
Yes. What we do is what we have done in the past. We've actually brought somebody in from the outside, a sales rep, and we brought them on with the brand, and we went after all the cosmetics lines.
Okay, brilliant. And then just another question. you've obviously Paul's from South Africa, so he's got to focus on South Africa. But are you looking at, are you managing any other brands outside of South Africa from Africa?
Yes, actually, we just signed one on. It's a spirit brand, more on the mixers and spirits, but they're out of Spain.
Okay, so even
I've had contacts with people wanting to come in from Greece with extra virgin olive oils. So we're not just looking at South Africa. We help everybody. Our focus, because of Paul and Celia's heart, because being from South Africa and we know the need, is that has been our main focus, but we help everybody.
Okay. So it's, really doesn't matter as long as it's got legs and opportunity into the market. And I think there's a load in Africa. I've just discovered, and being out at Summer Fancy Food, the demand for honey was just incredible. I think out of the 57 or 60 people that I met, I think about 30 of them were for honey. It was amazing. And I was showcasing honey from Zambia, and there's obviously loads coming from that region. So
good.
There's definitely a lot of opportunity, especially for on deck, as well as African brands trying to get into a market.
Yep, good.
Another question, I guess it has been answered, but do you do cosmetic wholesalers? Do you chat to them?
Yes, we chat to everybody in the line from A to Z.
Okay.
So it's not retail, it's everybody.
Great. And how long do market researchers usually take?
Anywhere from 4 to 5 weeks. That's the general. There's a lot of data that needs to be pulled. There's a lot of research that needs to be pulled. But that is something that we have found that is very successful for both us and the brand. So that is usually the first step, that we go in and do a market research instead of just trying to bring a brand in and say, all right, here's our retainer fees, here's our marketing fees, this and this and this. We do it something as a market research where it brings us to, first of all, see what the brand is like, what the legs are at here in the US. So 4 to 5 weeks is the norm.
Okay, and it is something more specific like Kalahari melon seed oil. Would that take longer because you need to pull more information, or is it
every brand is a little bit different, but I would say the general consensus is 4 to 5 weeks on everything that we can pull the information in, unless there's a hiccup out there somewhere, but that's the general.
Awesome. Another question we've got from Azet. They're coming in fast and furious here. How big is the online buying at the moment in the US compared to buying from normal brick and mortar retailers?
It all depends on the brand. I have a brand that they do their online here in the United States, and it's very big, but they use a large influence, excuse me, of podcasters to help drive that business. So there's many factors there. When you have an online business, how are you driving the business to get to online? This particular company uses a lot of podcasters to help drive that business. There's a lot of social media that drives that business for them. So we can help do that all, but it takes money to get those things established. And that company's doing quite well.
Awesome. Another one from Amelia. Jason, I'm manufacturing cosmetics. Can you take them to retail? If yes, can you advise on requirements?
Yes, I personally can't, but our team can.
Okay, awesome. Again, Amelia, please, I've put Jason's details down there, his email. So please, please drop Jason an email, and he'll connect you with the team that manages that kind of stuff. Here's something from someone based in the US. Courtney has said, as an American living in South Africa that works or mentors entrepreneurs, how can I best coach people to prepare them to enter the US market?
Well, that's a lot.
That's a loaded question.
Let's talk WhatsApp on that one. How's that? Send me an email and phone. Let's talk WhatsApp, but we'll help because, Paul and Celia came over here as entrepreneurs and seen the company grow. So, but send me an email, we'll get on WhatsApp and let's chat about that.
Awesome. And one more from Vivian. which will be the last time that we do. Before you go, Vivian's got a very unique, innovative Afro hair product. Jason, do you know how big the Afro hair market is in the US and if there's opportunity for that?
I don't know specifically off that. I mean, I know there's a lot of African Americans here in the United States. You know, you go into just the regular retail grocery store or the drugstores here, the CVS, the Walgreens, the Rite Aids of the world, and there are specific sections just for African American hair products. So there is a market here. I don't know what that percentage is yet. There again, it goes back to doing the research on it to see, but I will tell you, probably can't tell, but I use gel on my hair. But when I go there, I look for specific gel and I always see that 3 to 4 foot section of African American hair products right there on almost every set.
Awesome. Great. Yeah, that'll give you a great idea, Vivian. Also met with a guy by the name of Ricardo Berries, who works for a company called Purposely, or runs it's an online product pushing company that sort of sends a product into different partners. And he said, you know, that the market for African Americans is booming at the moment. So, you know, there definitely will be opportunity for your product in the market. And yeah, definitely a great one to attack and get into at the moment.
Awesome.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time, Jason.
Thank you for this opportunity, Rex and Cindy. I appreciate it, even if it's 5 a.m. here.
Thanks for getting up so early for us.
Yeah, no worries.
Great. So yeah, next up is Tiasa Grim from Seaway Consultants. Just to do a little intro on Tiasa. She holds a bachelor's degree in cosmetic science and a master's degree in biochemistry. She has been working as a regulatory consultant at Seaway Regulatory Consultants Ltd for almost 5 years now, and helping clients register their cosmetic products in the EU, UK, Canada, and the US. She is also a safety assessor for cosmetic products and writes articles for various cosmetic journals. Tiasa is going to be presenting on the FDA allowance and how cosmetic companies can prepare for these new rules and regulations that are coming through. So I'm going to stop sharing my side and we will. Tiasa, can you join us on camera?
And I'll try to share the screen.
Yep. Let's go for it. And if you could just make it full. Yeah, it came through, but then it went away.
Okay. Yeah. This is better, right? Is it?
Yeah, and if you just make it full screen.
Yeah, sure. Just a second. Okay, so that works?
Yes, that's awesome.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Rex. So at the beginning, I wanted to ask our CEO of the CUA, our company, to maybe make a quick introduction of our company. Would that be possible, Rex? I think he's one of the participants.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Well, I have to just give a allowance to Tadej for camera.
I think no worries. It's just going to be like 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick introduction.
Yeah. Okay, that's
so fine. Yeah, I just wanted to introduce our company. So some of you may already know us. We not that long ago we've done a presentation on the EU and UK regulatory requirements for cosmetics. So our company has been founded in 2012, and mainly we focus on the EU and UK regulatory services for cosmetics, which includes also being the responsible person, doing the safety assessments, and Tiasa does some of those. We also have our in-house laboratory where we can offer various safety tests as well as efficacy tests, so such as stability testing, challenge tests, batch tests, and if you have any claims on your products, we can get those tested. And yeah, we also focus on the US and Canadian cosmetics regulation lately, especially on the US one, since it's going to get changed in the near future. and then Tjasa is going to present what those changes are.
Okay. Thank you today. So yes, let's start with cosmetics regulation in the US. So the competent authority in the US is the US Food and Drug Administration, or shortly the FDA. And the cosmetic legislative framework consists mainly of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act, which was recently amended by Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act of 2022, or shortly MOCRA. I will heard a lot about this during this presentation, and I will also focus on this at the end of it as well. But just quickly to say that MOCRA is the most significant expansion of the FDA's authority to regulate cosmetics since the 1938. And then we also have Fair Packaging and Labeling Act, and of course, state-specific regulations, such as California Proposition 65, which is probably the most famous one. There are also other states that have their own state-specific regulations on cosmetics. So this is just something to keep in mind if you're selling across many states. Okay, so here you can see the steps to the US market. So the first step is product classification. Of course, you have to make sure that the product you're selling is a cosmetic if you want to sell it as a cosmetic. Then you have to make sure that the product is properly safety substantiated, that the formula review has been done, and that the formula is compliant. Then, of course, label has to be compliant according to the all labeling requirements set out by the US regulation. And then the last part is the registration. So let's dive into this. So the first step, product classification. Of course, in order to classify a product, it's very important to know what exactly is the definition of a cosmetics in the US. So let's start with that. Which products are cosmetics? So the US says that cosmetics are articles intended to be rubbed, poured, sprinkled, or sprayed on, introduced into, or otherwise applied to the human body. For cleansing, beautifying, promoting attractiveness, or altering the appearance. That's very important to keep in mind. And then I have also added another definition in blue, which says that the term cosmetic product means the preparation of cosmetic ingredients with a qualitatively and quantitatively set composition for use in a finished product. That one was actually amended by MOCRA, added by MOCRA. So I wanted to add this here as well. Here are some examples of cosmetics, of course, shampoos, moisturizers, nail polishes, deodorants, hair dyes, also tanning preparations, and many more. Here I also wanted to add that traditional soaps, that means soaps that are composed mainly of alkali salts of fatty acids, are actually not cosmetics, and they would be regulated by Consumer Product Safety Commission. However, I think that nowadays not many traditional soaps are being sold anymore. They're mainly like synthetic detergents, which would be classified as cosmetics. Okay, so now that we know the definition of cosmetics, it's also good to know the definitions of the borderline product categories, so you know what to avoid. So here I just added the definition of a drug in the US. So it's defined as, drugs are defined as articles intended for use in diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of disease. And they're articles intended to affect the structure or any function of the body of man or other animals. So it's very important to keep in mind this. So if a product is intended to affect the structure or any function of the body, it will be classified as a drug. So that's why I added claims with exclamation point, because you really need to make sure that you don't make any such claims on a cosmetic product. We will also mention this later on. Here I added also a couple of examples of drugs in the US. So those would be sunscreens, for example, skin whitening products, acne treatments, anti-dandruff hair products, hair growth products, for example, and many more. Some brands who are probably already selling their products in the EU or UK, they will know that most of these types of products will be classified as cosmetics in the EU and UK. So it's important to know the difference with the US, because here they would be over-the-counter drugs. The US regulation also has a term of intended use. That's also important to know when you're making a product classification. And the intended use of a product can can be decided based on the claims. So I already mentioned a bit about this. So if a product contains drug-like claims, it would be classified as a drug and not a cosmetic, even if you market it as a cosmetic. So here are some examples of such claims. Let's say treat acne, restore hair growth, relieve muscle pain, regenerate cells. Also, if you mention any increase or decrease production of melanin in the skin. So yeah, there's some examples. Then you also have to look at consumer perception of the product. That means why would a consumer buy your product and what do they believe it does, what its function. And then the third part of this intended use classification is our ingredients. So if a product contains some known drug active ingredients, which have like a known medical and therapeutic use, the product would be classified as a drug. So an example of this would be fluoride in toothpaste, which would therefore, a toothpaste that contains fluoride are drugs in the US. Okay, and we're on to the next step to the US market, which is the product safety. So cosmetic companies are responsible for selling safe and properly labeled cosmetics. Products must be safe when used according to the instructions for use listed on the label, and also when used in their expected way. So cosmetic companies have to substantiate product and ingredient safety before they place them onto the market. However, there is no specific list of required testing for cosmetics nor for ingredients, but there are new requirements coming under MOCRA. The FDA also has, they also published a guideline for GMP, so good manufacturing practices, but the current FDA GMP is being revised under MOCRA. I'll talk about this more later on. We also have to look at the list of prohibited and restricted ingredients when making sure that a product is compliant. And I also added here the color additives, which I will talk about it later on again. So let's see. So under MOCRA, there are some new requirements, of course, which I will again talk more about at the end. And one of such requirements is that for each product, there must be adequate substantiation of its safety. MOCRA also provides a definition of adequate substantiation of safety, which says that what it is, it says test, studies, researchers' analysis, or other evidence or information that is considered among experts qualified by scientific training and experience to evaluate the safety of cosmetic products and their ingredients, sufficient to support a reasonable certainty that a product is safe. So far, there's no exact list of required testing to be done for cosmetics, like we have it for the EU or UK, for example. So I have added here the EU Cosmetic Product Safety Report with a question mark, because we all are hoping that this report would be used like a standard or something also for the US. It would make life easier for many brands that are already selling the products in the EU or UK and have these reports. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So under MOCRA, there's also another requirement, quite important one, that all cosmetics products placed on the market will have to comply with the good manufacturing practices. So it also says that the FDA shall publish a notice of a proposed rule on GMP by December 29th of next year. They should also publish a final rule on GMP by December 29, 2025. And MOCRA also says that the FDA shall consult with cosmetic manufacturers, including small businesses, organizations, and other experts before issuing their proposals. This part has actually already been done. There was a public meeting held on June the 1st of this year. So we're waiting to see how this unravels. And MOCRA also includes that the GMP regulations shall be consistent, practicable, and appropriate with national and international standards. So again, with my question mark here, I added ISO standard 22716. We are hoping that this will be a standard recognized also for the US GMP. Many brands probably already recognize this standard because it is mostly used in the EU and UK. It is recognized for cosmetics. So let's hope that will be accepted in the US as well. Then we also have some terms that we should discuss about. So the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act prohibits the distribution of cosmetics that are adulterated or misbranded. So what does that mean? So cosmetic product is considered adulterated, mainly if it consists of poisonous ingredient or like a filthy ingredient that would make a product harmful for the consumer. There are many other points listed in the regulation. I just wanted to include some, and I also wanted to include the new ones, which are the ones in blue, and they were amended by MOCRA. So the product would be considered adulterated also if it has been manufactured under conditions that do not meet the GMPs, and if a cosmetic product or ingredients do not have adequate substantiation of safety. And then we have misbranded. This term refers mostly to products that have like a false labeling or misleading labeling, or the container is misleading in any way. And if the product doesn't contain all the necessary labeling requirements on the container. Okay, I have mentioned this at the very beginning, and I'll say it again, that MOCRA expands the FDA authority over cosmetics. It's very important to know. And in case of adulterated or misbranded products, or if there's any risk of serious adverse health consequences, the FDA can inspect the product safety dossier. They can inspect facilities to check their compliance with the GMP. They can request cosmetic companies to provide details on the fragrances, flavors. They can also require companies to recall the product voluntarily. And if they don't do that, they can also impose a mandatory withdrawal. And they can also suspend the facility registration. Okay, so we're on to the next step. So once we are sure that we're selling cosmetics that are within the definition of a cosmetic in the US, and that the product is properly safety substantiated and its ingredients as well, then we're on to the formula review. We have to check that the formula is compliant. The FDA has published a list of prohibited and restricted ingredients, which I have added to this presentation. I won't be going through everything here. This is just something that you can look at and maybe read later. The list is not so long, so it's not the EU or UK, where the list is very long. Okay, so just maybe mentioning the sunscreens in cosmetics. As I mentioned, sunscreens are classified as drugs in the US. So therefore, this restriction on the use of sunscreens in cosmetics. Okay, I will stop here a bit because color additives, it's important to know that they have to be approved by the FDA, unlike cosmetic products, which are not approved by the FDA. And in addition to the approval, some of them have to be also batch certified by the FDA. And they must all meet the requirements for identity and specifications as stated in the regulation. And it's also important to keep in mind that color additives are approved for their specific intended use. So for example, if a color additive is approved for use in externally applied cosmetics, that would be, for example, body wash, it cannot be used in, let's say, eye cream, which is used under the eye area, because it has not been approved for that intended use. And for some color additives, there's also an additional restriction, such as maximum permissible concentration in the finished product. So let's look here at some screenshots I made of the FDA's website. So these lists are not complete. I just wanted to include something to give you an idea. So there are two lists on the FDA website. One contains color additives that are exempt from certification and are permitted for use in cosmetics. And the second one are color additives that are subject to certification and permitted for use in cosmetics. So I mentioned that some color additives have to be batch certified by the FDA. So here we can see that the color additive is listed in the first column, and then we have different intended uses. This eye area generally, which includes lipsticks, external use. We also have specific limitations and comments if there are any. And we have a link to the exact regulation, which I have added in the next slide. So for example, if you take blue number 1, we can see if we click on that link, we can see this, which you can see on the slide. So we get more information about the identity of the additive, the specifications, uses and restrictions, labeling, and certification. Okay, so we're already nearing the end. So once we do the product safety, the product classification, and of course the formula review, we are on to the label review. We have to make sure that we have all the necessary requirements on the labels. And firstly, before we dive into the requirements, let's explain some terms. So there's a term of outer container, which I think many of you would know that would be, in this case, the box. And this would be a principal display panel, or PDP, which is the part of the label that is most likely to be seen by consumers at the time of purchase. And that's usually the front of the outer container. It's circled here, and every other panel is called information panel. And then we have inner container. In this case, it's a bottle. And again, we have a front panel, and every other one is called information panel. Okay, so now let's dive into the labeling requirements. So the following information that you can see on the slide has to appear on the PDP of the outer container. So we have the product name, we have the product identity, and we have the net quantity of contents. Here it's important to know that it has to appear in the bottom 30% of the principal display panel. So like we can see it here at the bottom. And that you have to use the US units. So for example, fluid ounces in this case, the metric units are not recognized. Okay, there's a lot of other information that has to appear on the labels. So ingredient list, for example, this is very similar to the EU and UK requirements. So ingredients must be listed in a descending order by concentrations, and ingredients with a concentration below 1% can be listed in any order after those with a concentration of 1%, above 1%. Then the color additives should be listed at the end, and you have to use the name that's designated by the FDA. So an example would be FD&C Blue number 1, or you can use the shorter version of Blue number 1. But the CI indexes, which you have to use in the US and in the UK and EU, are not recognized in the US, but you can have them in brackets following the FDA name. Then perfumes and flavors have to be listed as fragrance and flavor. So again, some difference with the EU and UK, where you have to list it as parfum and aroma. So far, or up to now, let's say, there is no legal requirement for to label fragrance allergens in the ingredient list. However, there is a new requirement under MOCRA, and you will have to include the allergens. We'll talk about this again later on. Of course, you have to add some directions for safe use if they are relevant to the product. Warning statements, if there are any warnings that you think are necessary to be listed on the product. But there are some exact warning statements that are prescribed for certain types of products. I have listed them here. You also have to include the name and place of business. That could be the name and address of the manufacturer, packer, or distributor. And there is a new requirement under MOCRA to include also the US address and the US phone number or electronic contact information. Then for the imported products, you also have to include country of origin, and you have to include batch number and expiry dates. These are not actually requirements, but we advise you to add them. Of course, all required labeling information must appear in English. There is one exception, which I have added here. There are some specifics such as product identity, net quantity, and warnings have to appear in bold. And there are also some font size requirements, which you have to check before when you're reviewing your label. And here I added our table, which is a quick summary of all the requirements and where they have to appear. If you have only the inner container, so you don't sell your bottle or product in a box, then you just look at it as if this would be your outer container. Okay. A very important part of label review are definitely claims. Unfortunately, there's no list of approved or accepted claims that would make our lives very easy, much easier. But we know that they must be truthful, not misleading. They have to be substantiated and in line with the cosmetic definition, which I already included at the beginning of this presentation. Just to summarize, they have to relate to cleansing, beautifying, altering the appearance, or promoting attractiveness. that means that they should not imply any physiological or structural function effect, because we have seen that that is already a definition of a drug. So words such as reduces, inhibits, heals, treats are not allowed if you want the product to be a cosmetic. So here I included some examples of cosmetic claims. You'll see that you have to, it's really important to emphasize the effect on the appearance. Let's say improves the appearance of wrinkles, the skin looks softer or feels, I don't know, hydrated. Yeah, just so that you do not make any, like I mentioned, structural functional claims. Also included some examples of drug claims. We already talked about sunscreen, then of course eyelash or hair growth, antibacterial as well. Wrinkle removal would also not be okay for a cosmetic, and any mentioning of acne or blemishes, breakouts, that can be problematic. In the US, you can still use free from claims, which are problematic in the EU and UK. You may also use hypoallergenic claim, of course, if everything is properly substantiated and true and not misleading. You can also use claims such as cruelty-free, not tested on animals, again, if they are true. However, you cannot use FDA approved because cosmetics are not approved by the FDA. I also added information about the claim organic. This claim or this term is regulated by the USDA, and just you have to check with them with the requirements in order to use this claim. Okay, so we're already at the last step. Here I wanted to mention that in March 2023, the FDA announced that it stopped accepting submissions for the Voluntary Cosmetic Registration Program, VCRP, which is established under the FDNC Act. And furthermore, they also confirmed that the VCRP registration will not be transferred to the new program. So from this information, you probably already gathered, if you haven't already known, that so far the registration of cosmetics in the US, it was voluntary, it was not mandatory. However, FDA really encouraged participations in the VCRP, but that is now over. And under MOCRA, we now have mandatory registration for cosmetic facilities, both domestic and international, and we have mandatory product listing for cosmetic soap in the USA. So there are a lot of changes, big changes coming. And yes, let's look at MOCRA now for the end. So what to expect? As I already mentioned at the beginning, MOCRA stands for Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act of 2022, and it was enacted on 29 December of last year. And here are the key changes introduced by MOCRA. I just mentioned the first two, so mandatory FDA registration for cosmetic facilities applies to both domestic and international facilities, and mandatory product listing for all cosmetics sold in the US. Compliance with good manufacturing practices, we have already mentioned that quickly. Then declaration of fragrance allergens on labels and labeling requirements for professional use products. Then record keeping, including safety substantiation and adverse events documentation, reporting of adverse events to the FDA, new regulations regarding talc, asbestos, and PFAS, and also phasing out animal testing. The FDA is currently in the process of establishing the new registration portal for facility registration and product listings, which I just mentioned that the VCRP has been stopped, and now they're making the new system, which we will have to use for the product listing and product cosmetic facility registrations. And they're also developing additional regulations to fulfill the requirements outlined in MOCRA. That will be to publish GMPs, to identify a list of fragrance allergens, to establish standardized testing methods for asbestos in talc-containing products, and to assess the use of PFAS in cosmetics of these substances. Okay, so for the end, I decided to include a couple of frequently asked questions. I have the first section includes responsible person and product listings. So MOCRA also includes a new definition, a new term, which is the responsible person. And the definition of responsible person under MOCRA is this is a manufacturer, packer, or distributor of a cosmetic product whose name appears on the product label. And it has various responsibilities, including product listing, adverse event reporting, safety substantiation, disclosure of fragrance allergens, fragrance record access, labeling, contact information on the label, record keeping, and also product recall in case of non-compliance. The second question is very easy. Of course, the responsible person is responsible for submitting the product listings. We are still waiting for as I mentioned, the online FDA portal, which will be used for the product listings. So yeah, at this point, we can only wait. All products introduced into the US market will be applicable for product listings by both US and foreign brands. And here is information that has to be provided for product listing. So you have to provide the facility registration number. As you'll see later on, facilities are already mentioned as well. The facilities will also have to be registered. So you will have to include their number also here in the product listings. You will have to include the name and contact number of the responsible person, the name of the product, cosmetic category of the product, list of ingredients, including any allergens and colors. And then each product will be assigned a listing number. Here, just to mention the deadline, these mandatory product listings have to be completed by December 29th of this year. And they will have to be updated annually. New products after this deadline, they will have to be registered within 120 days of their introduction into interstate commerce. So this deadline is something to keep in mind. And the next section will cover US agent and facility registration. So the mandatory facility registration affects all facilities, including domestic and foreign. And MOCRA also includes the definition of the term facilities, which means any establishment, including importers involved in the manufacturing or processing of cosmetic products distributed in the United States. Certain establishments are excluded, such as beauty shops, hospitals, retailers, hotels, and also it doesn't affect facilities that solely label or relabel, package or repackage, or hold or distribute products. Very important to note is that foreign facilities will have to, they will require a US agent who will handle the facility registration. And the US agent will have to have a physical address in the US, so a PO box will not be sufficient. The role of the US agent is not specifically defined yet by the regulation, but it will probably just be similar to the role of the US agent for medical devices. So the US agent will communicate between the FDA and the foreign facility. They will reply to any inquiries by the FDA, maybe inspections or any documentation they will need. So something like that. Here's information that will have to be provided for the facility registration. So the first one will be facility name, physical address, email address, and telephone number. Then the contact information of the US agent, that is for foreign entities. All brand names produced at the facility, product category, and the RP, the responsible person, for each product manufactured at the facility. Here we also have to include the deadlines. So these mandatory facility registrations have to be completed by December 29th of this year, so the same as product listings. But then they have to be renewed every 2 years, so not annually as the product listings. Then following this deadline, new businesses will have 60 days after they begin manufacturing to register with the FDA. Okay, so I'm sure that many brands are wondering, are there any exceptions under MOCRA? Yes, there are. MOCRA exempts certain small businesses from GMP, facility registration and product listing. So small businesses are defined as businesses with average gross annual sales in the US for the previous 3-year period of less than 1 million. This exemption, however, does not apply to facilities that produce products that come into contact with the mucous membranes of the eyes, if they're injected, if they're intended for internal use. There's an example of such like mouthwash. And if they alter the appearance for more than 24 hours under their usual conditions for use. again, they also exempt facilities that are subject to requirements for devices and drugs. Okay, so before we end this, a quick summary of the new labeling requirements, which I already mentioned during the presentation. So product labels will have to include a US address, a US phone number, or electronic contact information, which is required as a means to contact the RP in case of any adverse events. Fragrance allergens, if they're present in a cosmetic product. We are waiting for the FDA to determine which substances will classify as allergens. And also professional use products will have to comply with the labeling requirements for cosmetic products, and they will have to include a statement indicating that the product should be used by professionals only. So again, let's look at the deadlines. The labeling for professional use products must be updated by December 29th of this year. And then there's possible contact information and fragrance allergens must be listed on product labels by the end of next year. And for the last slide, let's see how, let's make like a summary of everything that I just said and see how you can prepare for MOCRA. So the first and foremost, let's just keep up to date with the upcoming changes. As I mentioned, we're still waiting for many guidelines and additional clarifications from the FDA. The most important one being the actual system for the registrations. So yeah, you have to keep up to date with that. Then if you're a facility with your manufacturing product, you have to prepare the information required for facility registrations. You can also try to find a US agent if you're a foreign entity. You have to learn about the GMPs if you don't already comply with a certain standard. And you also will have to comply with the GMP once the final rule is published by the FDA. And you also can prepare for possible FDA inspections. And then if you're a responsible person, you have to prepare the information required for product listings. You can already start doing that now. You can make sure that the facilities that produce your products will be registered. You have to wait for the system first. Then you can prepare and start collecting safety documentations for the product and its ingredients. You can prepare for the upcoming labeling requirements and possible FDA inspections. And you can also establish like an internal system for adverse event reporting. Okay, so just to end, here's a quick MOCRA timeline. I think I will just leave it up to you to read later on, and that will be almost it. So here are just a couple of CUA services in regard to the US regulation. We will, of course, provide services in product classification, formula and labeling review, facility and product registration, and possibly US agent service. This is to be determined, but hopefully we will be able to do that. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tiasa. There are some questions for you, and I'll start going through them now. But just anyone else that is looking to ask Tiasa some questions, please just put them on the chat, and then we will take them to I'll ask them of Tiasa once they're done. So first question, would you happen to know which category lip balm and lipstick falls under?
Lipstick would be cosmetic, but lip balm, it's a problem because a balm, like a skin protectant, there's an OTC monograph for that, so you have to be careful here. I think it falls under a drug. Yeah, I think lip balms actually are drugs. Yeah.
Okay. Can you advise a category for aftershave products? It's addressing bumps and ingrown hair, though.
I mean, I have to say it's difficult to just say it, without seeing the product, more about it, to check the labels. But if it's a commonly used aftershave, it should be a cosmetic, yeah.
Great. Do you know, would labeling need to be changed to meet US imperial system? Because South Africa use metric, so.
You can have both, yeah.
So you generally
just add the US units, yeah.
Okay. So it's important though for the US market to have that kind of, they want to see that. Okay. Hold on, email. All right, let's see what else we got here. So just Caroline has asked, under the new law, cosmetics manufactured in the US, will they also have to be registered, or is it just imported products?
Yes, all products and all facilities have to be registered.
Okay, so yeah, you be prepared wherever you are. So if you are a South African brand that's got a partner manufacturing for you in the US, please note it's all everybody's affected under this new ruling. And then products for amenities and not for retail sale, do they fall under the same ruling?
I didn't.
So amenities, I think for
like hotels or something.
Hotels and stuff, yes.
The regulation still applies, yes, but it's. I think the facilities that make that would not be classified as facilities. So as I mentioned, they would be exempt from the registration. For products, I think the products will still have to comply with the registrations, the regulations. Sorry.
I guess that is because they are, the idea of MOCRA, as is FDA, is it's actually protecting the citizens of
the consumers,
the US. So they're still needing you to make sure that your products are checked and registered and certified as needed. Is there any for exemption and to qualify for this? Are they looking for annual sales in the US or annual sales in total?
I think the US. Let me see. I've added it here. Yes, in the US, of course, yeah.
So are they looking? So you're needing for just worry about the US, so not annual sales in South Africa or into Europe or everywhere else.
Yes. I mean, we only have this definition, but based on this definition, I would say that the US, yes.
Okay. Another specific question, but I think also please make sure you can message Tiasa directly. But what would depilatory cream fall under?
They are cosmetics.
Okay.
Generally, yeah.
Instant answer, thank you. And then does raw ingredients such as essential oils, carrier oils, etc., fall within what you do? I mean, some of those are obviously those are cosmetic based products. Do you deal with that?
We don't deal with specific ingredients like raw materials. But if it's like a raw material, like an essential oil, for example, and if it's used within the definition of a cosmetic, so it's like perfuming or something, if it's not like to help you sleep, which would not be a cosmetic, that would be already a drug, then yes, we deal with that, but not like a separate raw materials.
Okay, so in that case, raw materials of essential oils and carrier oils going into the US, are they subject to the same?
They're still subject to the regulation, yes. The same as the cosmetics products. There may be some additional, which I'm not aware of because we do not specifically deal with ingredients, but it does cover also ingredients, yes.
Okay, great. Lucia, just to for your knowledge as I go past that, all this information is going to be shared again. So Cindy will send that over to you. And then just your last question for you, Tiasa, is it more cost effective to get your skincare products registered for selling in the US compared to Europe, or is the cost pretty much the same?
Okay, that's very specific. I guess it depends on the number of products you have, or I mean, definitely the US and if we're just looking at the requirements currently, the EU and UK have a more extensive list of requirements. So based on that, you have to make, sure that you test everything. You have to make the safety assessment for each of your products. So there's some costs there. but we don't know what will have to be done under MOCRA. So maybe there'll be some testing that you also have to do. I mean, there definitely have to be some testing. So it's difficult for me to just say that, but maybe the EU would be it currently, but it's hard to say.
Okay, I mean, it's dependent on what product it is. So some
Yes.
products will have more regulation than the others. Some are more difficult to deal with. So I think it's on a per product basis. But at the moment, just because things are in motion in the EU, it's probably easier to do in the EU because you know your variables at the moment. Okay, great. And the one last question, Caroline, has slipped in just before you leave. What actual testing would be required for small companies that are exempt for selling under the 1 million mark?
I mean, testing as in regard to safety.
Yes.
They are not exempt from any product safety substantiation requirements. So the same as any other product.
Okay, brilliant. Awesome. Well, so thank you so much. There's a lot of great information. And you seem to definitely know what you're talking about because you seem to answer every question off memory, which is awesome to hear. So nice to know that there's someone in the market that can give great advice and can support the companies going into international markets. As you mentioned, there's obviously a lot changing and there still has to be established with MOCRA. And even when I first chatted to Mariette about it, she said, this is great, but we all just waiting in anticipation of what's going to be the final decisions and rules and when these are all going to actually take an effect. But I think the key message here is that start preparing now, because otherwise when you start preparing, it's going to take you another few months or maybe a year or so to get your product in ready for what's to come. So please, make sure that you get in contact. Tiesa, are you the right person then for everybody to contact?
I think it's best if you contact either our CEO or our marketing representative. So I can give you the email.
Can you put the email on the chat? And then,
sure.
and then people can take it from there.
I will put it in.
Thank you very much. So thanks so much, Tiesa. That was great. We're
Thank
going
you.
to be moving on to our next speaker now, which is Carolyn, who gave us that last question. Just let me make it full screen here. You can see and do the intro on Carolyn. Carolyn, can you put your camera on for us and just double check that's working? You're having issues before.
Yeah, I'm going to try and see if I can get it up there. Is it coming? Let's try it now. New computers. Hey, no, still showing that error. I don't know why.
Still struggling.
Damn.
Are you able to try and join on your phone and present from there?
Let's try and see. Otherwise, they can just talk. It's fine. Maybe it's being that we're on a farm. Maybe the signal isn't strong enough. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Could be. Let's see
Well, give that a try while I introduce you. And if it still doesn't work, then I'll just leave your speaker information on there. Great. So just to introduce Carolyn, Carolyn Berman is from Katavi Botanicals. Carolyn is the co-founder and co-owner of Katavi Botanicals, which is a South African all-natural skincare range that entered the US market in 2014. Carolyn co-founded Katavi with a passion for excellence and the healing anti-aging properties of Camellia, the brand's key ingredient. Katavi continues to market, innovate, and develop new product ranges that are sold both internationally and locally in South Africa. All right. That's fine.
It says that the host has disabled the video.
Okay, that's because you're restricted like everyone else joining new, but let me get that out.
See if that works.
Stop share and get
on my phone.
Let me have a look. most of that. Guessing this is correct. Carolyn, do you want to give that a try?
Yeah, it just says on my side, it just says you cannot start your video because the host has disabled it.
I've given you access now. Can you give it a try?
Okay, I've given that, yeah. No, it's still got that blank spot. Strange.
Very weird. Okay, no worries. I'll share your picture of your screen and then you can talk from there. Let me just do that. And we'll go from there. Great. Okay, Carolyn, continue.
Right. Okay, perfect.
I'll
Well,
actually
obviously things are
share your
changing dramatically for us.
Mhm.
When we started off, it was an issue to get into the States because obviously we had a lot of ingredients that were unknown there. We did a show with Westgrow, Anaheim, and were invited by Shop NBC to come on air and do TV shows with them, which being so naive as we were, we thought fabulous. But it meant that we had to open up a corporation in the States to get a DUNS number. Because being on air, you actually needed to have the ability to have American insurance for public liability, which you couldn't get without the DUNS number. So we formed the corporation to then find out that not only because of being on air did we have the normal accountancy problems, because of America having so many different states, each state has its own tax ramifications. So we needed to find an accountant, which cost us an awful lot of money, that could cover all the areas that we might be shipping to from the online purchases. This all took time to get all the things lined up. We also, because of USA being such a litigious nation, we decided to do testing through Dermaconsult in Germany so that we can make on the 4 flagship products of wrinkle depth, skin evenness, skin tone. That was all done by Dermaconsult. Our original PIF files for our flagship range was done by Johns Hopkins Hospital and in the UK. And then we thought, right, we're going into it and we're on our way. It was a really fantastic 2 years of being on air every 2 to 3 months, and you can sell between 2,000 and 3,000 products in 7 minutes. And the lady that we had tied up with in the US was meant to be then organically growing the product into shops. And that sounded fantastic compared to our little African market. But we got approached by Whole Foods to do their stores. And I don't know where they are now because I think they're part of Amazon now. But in those days, they had 6,000 stores countrywide, and you weren't given an option. You had to do, every store had to get 6 of each. You had to have a free fill, in other words, a sample range for everyone. So you were giving 6,000 times however many SKUs you were putting into the shop as a freebie to them. You also had to make sure that there was going to be backup stock in America. And they don't have one depot, so you have to make use of pick and packers. And when we worked it all out, realistically, we realized that actually coming from South Africa, we were so far out of our league. We didn't have a hope in hell of servicing the capital needed to have product in factory, product on water, product in warehousing, and product sitting in 6,000 stores waiting to be sold in maybe some areas that there weren't in a natural market for them. So we walked away and decided to close down in America just because we just thought we're never ever going to get there. And we pulled out. It wasn't easy because once you've opened there, you can't, like Africa, can't just say, well, I'm closing my business. It cost us a huge amount of money to actually physically close down in America. And I came away saying, I'm not going to be doing that anymore and think I've done my days of cosmetics. Teresa from Secosa encouraged me to come back to do trade shows. And we are, or have been for the last year, back exporting on a much smaller scale into America. It was different then because all I had to do, and we had to do quite a strict registration format for our products going on to online air or TV channels, because they give you a docking day. So if they say to you, okay, your product for the show has to be here on the 2nd of January, they'll say to you, the product must be there between 2 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So you would have to make sure it gets to Bowling Green to be delivered between those times. So I decided to phone or get hold of USA Border Patrol, and they then issued us with a binding number. In other words, a harmonized tariff specific to our products. And even if we had a gift pack, then that would also get a binding code for that product, which obviously then helps the clearing process go through much quicker. And we thankfully have never had any issues with actual product going in. We also, which has now fallen away and has become not necessary, all of our products were listed on the FDA voluntary registration system, where you actually put in all your ingredients, your formulation with exact percentages, and you get a reply as to yes, you're approved, or no, you may not, where sadly that's also falling away. So I think we're all going to be in for the high jump coming at the end of this year, not realizing what's actually ahead of us. I think that's going to be the hardest thing, is because even though we now have PIF files who we have used CE Way for the latest 4 new products, and we were hoping to put another 8 through them, will our dossiers or PIF files that have been produced for the EU and UK be acceptable to the USA, or is it going to be a completely separate set of documents required? I think that's the scariest part of not knowing, and time is kind of marching on. So sadly, all what I've learned is now going to be pretty much not going very far.
Carolyn, are you still with us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, they're just
So,
making sure.
yeah. So I think that for me, from my side, everything I've learned, as I say, has pretty much kind of gone out the window now with the USA, because nobody really knows how in line with the EU and UK they are going to be.
All right, great. Have you got more stuff to go through on your slides that I'm showcasing?
No, I think that basically that what I've said is basically the reason why we didn't join AGOA was because we've never, when we had our own corporation and now when we're exporting to a distributor there, we actually have never, ever paid duty on cosmetics going into America. And as far as I understand, AGOA was formulated for companies as a tax reduction or tax haven, or because you're being allowed a tax, but we never joined because we never had to pay tax going, and there was no duty payable on natural skincare into America.
Okay, so you are gearing yourself up then for change.
Yeah, for big change, sadly. Okay. But the documents we had to have before is we had the binding rule, which you get your harmonized tariff. We were FDA compliant, because remember, cosmetics were never ever FDA approved. You were compliant through the voluntary system. So those are all that you needed. Plus you needed your safety data sheets to go with the product. That was all you needed before. And of course, sillily enough, even when we did the air freight cargoes, all your wooden crates and that have to have special stamps on to say that they have been sprayed for wood borer and those kind of things.
Okay. Carolyn, Marriott was making a mention here. Can you maybe outline the key documents and certifications that you needed to have in place before getting your product into, even starting to get your product into the US market?
Well, what we did is we did clinical trials in Germany so that we could on air make claims. Otherwise, nothing in America does anything but calm and soothe. And when we were on our first show, in fact, we had a lovely two gentlemen there that we thought were these fabulous two buyers and were gleaning us on information. And at the end, turned out to actually be FDA agents at the beauty show, trying to get us to say something other than calming, soothing, and changing the appearance of, because once you've said that, you will not be allowed to bring your cosmetic as a skincare line into America. They are very strict on the wording of things. A cosmetic does nothing to the actual structure of the skin. It can only appear better. So that was the first thing we did, was Dermaconsult. Then we did the PIF files in the UK, just for our own sanity and to be safe. We did have which was what the TV network wanted, not the FDA or government. We did have the GMP, and we also had to have the ISO batch numbers. We had to have a recall system as well. But that's normal, I think, manufacturing process that maybe wasn't a normal need for American export, but being on a TV show, and because of them worried about being sued, you had to supply all that documentation.
So yeah, I mean, that's good old American media for you as well, and it's probably the backlash of doing something like that and taking the risk. How long did this all take you?
18 months, because we actually got into a huge dilemma when we first got chosen. We were called Kigelia, and at that time was the same time that they had the court case with Rooibos tea. And what was set out by that court case was that no product that has as its main ingredient a botanical ingredient be patented or trademarked as under that name. So we had paid Adams and Adams in Pretoria to trademark and register our trademarks and our patents, a huge amount of money, and then got to America to be told that Kigelia was not allowed to be used in the USA, because with this whole thing with Rooibos, we had Kigelia or sausage tree in our product. So if we were selling a computer, we could call it Kigelia, but we couldn't sell a skincare range that contained Kigelia as the brand Kigelia. So we had to come away and literally restart the whole branding of the range. And it's at that time we decided to go the natural route as well for our sins, which was a huge, huge, huge change around, because in those days, natural was elusive, and our suppliers and raw ingredient suppliers thought that if you asked them for genuine inkies, that you were trying to steal some kind of hidden information. So I think we're one of the first real Mungi Wungi South African brands. In fact, at some stage, we were even banned selling in South Africa. The first shipments we did, we had to go through Addis Ababa, because our raw ingredients, Kigelia, the Ziminia, Kalahari melon, all of those actually weren't even listed in the pharmacopoeias for import into the USA. And people were really open to it once it got there. So it took us probably a good part of 18 months to 2 years to jump through all the hoops and get everything ready to go on air. And they actually waited for us and still did. We still had 2 really good years on air. But my biggest thing is in hindsight, we did it backwards. We really needed to have gone much bigger on our own local market to build up capital to be able to afford the marketing in America, because it's just such a huge engine and finance that is needed to service the market, remembering that if they take product for you for 6,000 stores and 1,000 stores are in the back hills of somewhere that has no interest in a natural skincare range, come the end of the year, even if they've paid for the product, they can turn around and say to you, here's all your product back. We want our money back.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say you need to be really strong and have a market going here in South Africa to support your venture out into the US.
Okay, great. You now have your product still on the shelves of the US.
At the moment, what they do, they are in the US. We've gone into the smaller venues. We have become more white label, and private label is our biggest business. That's why I was asking about how that works, because I know that one of the brands we supply to a local chain of lodges here, we actually have them going, they aren't for sale, but they go into their headquarters in London, and we haven't had a problem with them not having a responsible person, because they are going, okay, it's not huge quantities or container loads, but it is going into a private office under their private label brand. It becomes tricky with white label, because we're going through that with the UK at the moment, because if you're going to be white labeling for someone, you have to let them have your full formulation and method of manufacture, etc., which becomes quite invasive on all your intellectual property. So that's my question was, is how would if, let's say, if you're going on the yacht business, that would be coming out of America, how would that affect how far you would need to actually be part of the responsible person system?
Yeah. So I guess that's how you are keeping your products on the shelves in the US at the moment, through private label is really sustaining you. Okay, brilliant. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
I don't have any other questions. Some of those were the questions that were on the list here on the chat. I'd like to invite Mariette to join us now. You can, let me just exit out of this thing and get that out again. And then I'll just do the intro to Mariette. There she is. All right. Awesome. Great. Thanks for joining us, Mariette. Mariette is from SACOSA, which is the Cosmetics Export Council of South Africa, who are doing loads of programs overseas and amazing access to market for South African companies, and great insight into how to get into those markets around the world. They are going all over the place into Africa. I know they've gone out to Australia. They've done stuff in the Middle East. Done stuff in the US. Obviously Europe a lot in the past. So huge drive into international markets where there are opportunities. So just to give you a little bit of background, Mariette van Rooyen is the Export Council Manager at Cosmetics Export Council of South Africa, who is SACOSA. SACOSA creates an exporting environment that promotes and increases business for South African companies and highlights our world-class cosmetic products to the global market. With a primary goal of facilitating and assisting export opportunities for the South African cosmetic, toiletry, fragrance, and pharmaceutical industries. Mariette today is going to just give us some insight into SACOSA and their export strategies and opportunities for the US market. I'm going to stop share, and Mariette, please feel free to share your slides and we can go from there.
Oops.
There we go. It's coming through. If you just go full screen and then you go from there. Awesome.
Rex, are we full screen?
We are full screen, yes.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for inviting me to present today. It's my pleasure to introduce the services of the Cosmetic Export Council of South Africa, also known as SACOSA. And we are excited to share with you the opportunity and benefits that our organization can offer to businesses in the cosmetic industry. And we hope that you find this presentation informative and of value. I would like to introduce our team. The management of SACOSA is run by myself as Export Council Manager. Mr. Daniel Motswane is also on this webinar today, who is our chairman, and my right hand, Nelisiwe Jolonyati, who is the administrator for SACOSA. To tell you more about SACOSA and what we offer, the Cosmetic Export Council of South Africa is a Section 21 non-profit organization and has a public-private partnership with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, also known as the DTIC. SACOSA works in conjunction with the DTIC and South African embassies and economic offices around the world. As mentioned, SACOSA's prime objective is to create an exporting environment that will promote increased business for South African companies and highlight our world-class cosmetic products to the global market. SACOSA's primary mission is to facilitate and assist export opportunities for the South African cosmetics, toiletry and fragrance industries. And our secondary mission is to promote export growth for the South African economy by showcasing our world-class manufacturers. Just to give you a short overview on the South African cosmetic market. South Africa has the largest cosmetic market in Africa and is the largest exporter of cosmetic products in Africa. South Africa's cosmetic industry is growing internationally, with the majority of the growth in revenue concentrated in South Africa. In March 2023, South Africa's beauty products exports accounted to 434 million rand, and imports accounted to 351 million rand, resulting in a positive trade balance of 82.9 million rand, which is great news. Between March 2022 and March 2023, the exports of South Africa's beauty products have increased by 11.1% to the value of 43.4 million, while imports increased by 4.3% to the value of 106 million rand. The destinations that we import and export, or destinations of import and export from South Africa. In March 2023, beauty products were exported mostly to our neighboring countries, which includes Botswana to the value of 51.2 million rand, Zimbabwe 42.7 million rand, Namibia 39.1 million, Mozambique 32.5 million, and Zambia 28.4 million. And were imported mostly from Poland, France, Spain, and the United States and Germany. Export growth. In March 2023, the increase in beauty products year-by-year exports was explained by an increase in exports to Taiwan to the value of 67 million, the United States to the value of 33 million, and Mauritius to the value of 16.1 million rand. So exports from South Africa to the USA increased by 130% for the year, which is where we are going to concentrate, as Cosmetic Export Council as well. In 2022, South Africa exported 2,542 tons to the US, which included products under HS codes ranging from 3301 to 3307. taking into consideration that the cosmetic industry was hugely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, with cosmetic products being a non-essential, the growth of the South African cosmetic sector from March 2022 to March 2023, and its manufacturing division, which is valued at 20 billion rand, is proof that South African brand owners can expand to meet global demands. So what is SECOSA's export strategy and our key opportunities that is unlocked by SECOSA? So firstly, if we look at international trends in the beauty and care industry, natural and organic products is the biggest trend worldwide. The all-natural beauty market has exploded in recent years as people have become more aware of what's inside their products and what they allow on their skin. This also includes sustainability, which refers then to the formulating and producing of cosmetic products in a way that minimizes the impact on the environment and promotes the responsible use of natural resources. Due to the availability of natural ingredients in South Africa, our cosmetic manufacturers tend to develop natural products. With its rich biodiversity and South Africa being the third most biodiverse country in the world, it is highly viable. It's a highly viable source for natural ingredients with unique opportunities for the international markets. With the growing demand for not only finished products, but also natural ingredients used in the manufacturing of cosmetic products at a global level, this sector has substantial export growth potential for South Africa. And it's also one of our passion for our SECOSA's chairman, Mr. Daniel Motswane, and his team, the Committee for Natural Ingredients. The second most popular trend is affordability, where consumers are becoming increasingly price sensitive when it comes to beauty and personal care products due to high rates of inflation globally. And the rand-dollar exchange rate presents the opportunity and makes it attractive for US importers to buy from South Africa. Another growing trend worldwide is developing skincare products specifically for dark tone or melanin-rich skin. As Vivian asked on the questions earlier, there has been an ever-growing crop of beauty brands coming to the market in the last couple of years that is specifically formulated for skin of color. These brands take into account the unique needs of darker toned skin, including the need for hydration, protection from hyperpigmentation, and the use of ingredients that are safe and effective. Understanding darker skin and natural curly hair, South Africa has the potential to develop natural skin and hair care products, which brings together the best natural ingredients and scientific research that maximize natural beauty. With the large African-American population in the US, this presents an ideal opportunity for South Africa to supply these markets, products to the US market. Further research of South Africa's potential to sell cosmetics into the US market by the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, also known as DIRCO, who's nationally in South Africa and the USA through the increasing of exports of South African goods to the US. Cosmetics were identified as one of the 5 main sectors with the most potential of exports from South Africa to the USA. I'm sorry. What is AGOA's export strategy then? First of all, the strategy includes market access to the USA. Over the years and through our partnership with the DTIC, AGOA has given its emerging as well as established exporter members numerous opportunities to exhibit internationally at leading cosmetic trade shows through the utilization of DTIC funding schemes like the SAS funding scheme for emerging exporters, EMEA individual funding scheme for the bigger exporters, and DTIC national pavilions. The B2B opportunities have successfully generated exports for many companies and many of AGOA's members, including Carolyn from Katawi. With our strategy to penetrate the US market, we have included 3 cosmetic exhibitions on our business plan for the government financial year 1st of April 2023 to 31st of March 2024. And we are departing on Sunday with a group of AGOA members, and we will be exhibiting at the Cosmoprof North America exhibition in Las Vegas. Then we also have 2 other shows. There's an edition of Cosmoprof North America in Miami next year, beginning of January. And then towards the end of January, we will be exhibiting at IBS New York, the International Beauty Show New York. And with compulsory registration for the MOCRA Act by the end of this year, we will also be encouraging our members to utilize EMEA PMR funding. There is funding available for cosmetic manufacturers to register their products in a foreign market and also for trademarking. Other services offered by AGOA include export readiness, business development, export promotion, mentorship through linking members to larger businesses, introduction into business incubation and accelerator programs, and a general advisory service for matters including funding, product compliancy, certification, and product registration. Sector expansion for success, like Daniel also mentioned, working with business support program associate partners, AGOA has expanded the cosmetic sector to include natural indigenous ingredients used in the manufacturing of cosmetic products. With over 21,000 plant species, South Africa's indigenous essential and vegetable oils value chain have a high growth potential. Our essential and vegetable oils are demanded by major economies such as the United States, Germany, Netherlands, and the UK. AGOA is currently actively promoting this subsector through international exhibition participation of companies with raw natural ingredients. Thank you for your time, and thank you to Catalyze for hosting this webinar. I hope that you will be contacting us to find out how you can become a member of AGOA. If you've got any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariette. It was really good to hear what is going on. I mean, the reason we wanted AGOA to come and present today, and yourself, Mariette, is also we've got quite a lot of African producers on the call outside of South African. And, you know, AGOA is a great model for certain regions in Africa to follow certain countries in helping their manufacturers get into international markets. I know in South Africa, we've got some really great funding behind us, with the Department of Trade and Industry. Not many countries in Africa have this. But the way it's sort of structured with the Cosmetics Export Council driving these programs into international markets and then funding to coming behind what you guys are doing is something that certain countries in Africa definitely have to consider, because it really is a concerted effort and follow up, and you have to be quite targeted. There's so many countries around the world. Where do you even begin? And when you do target those countries, what things do you have to have in place? And then also just to let you know that the previous speakers, both Carolyn and Tiasa, was something that Mariette actually helped us arrange, because she's going through these processes at the moment and realized that if you're going to hit the US market, you got to know what you're dealing with. There's a lot of things, lot of surprises and things that you need to know about before getting into those regions. Maria, just to ask you some final questions from my side. We don't have any on the group, but it does seem to happen as you become the last speaker of the day. How many South African companies do you know of now that are into the US market, and is there any feedback from them on their struggles?
Rex, at the moment, we don't have the specific data on how many companies are exporting. What I can tell you is it will mostly be the bigger role players like L'Oreal, Johnson & Johnson. So they are not members of SACOSA. They don't need our support anymore. So at the moment, I unfortunately cannot give you any details on that. Yeah.
And what products are you getting interest for from the US? What type of cosmetic?
Definitely our natural and organic skincare products. Like I said, prior to COVID, we didn't do any exhibitions specifically as SACOSA into the US, but we've developed this export marketing strategy with our cosmetics sector desk at the DTIC to develop exports into the USA. So for now, it's a bit exploratory. So we are taking 10 emerging exporters to go and explore the international market. And we will come back hopefully with information and, what are the trends for South Africa, what opportunities we will have, and which specific products will be suitable for the market.
Okay, and trends into Europe at the moment, is it really focused on natural and organic?
Absolutely, it's a worldwide trend. It's been going on for many years. We are also participating in September at Sana in Bologna, Italy. And just to tell you, I think it's the 35th edition or 34th edition of Sana, which is a natural and organic exhibition. So 34 years ago, South Africa didn't even know what is natural and organic. So it's been a going trend for many years worldwide. We also recently did an exhibition in Egypt, Edgy Beauty Egypt. And surprisingly, we also found that the other African countries that we met were all also interested only in natural and organic products. So chemicals are definitely out. We've got all the resources and natural ingredients, our essential oils like your rose geranium, our vegetable oils like kalahari melon seed, and marula that will be, suitable for all international markets and attractive to international markets.
And are you seeing a lot of those natural products coming from other countries in Africa and South African companies utilizing those raw materials?
Yes, we do. We recently had inquiries for our natural ingredients from countries like Ethiopia and Rwanda. So, other African countries are also exploring natural and organic and getting into that market trend.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And yeah, I'm more asking about South African companies possibly sourcing their raw materials from other African countries.
No, not so much.
Okay, so they still mainly getting their product from South Africa, or they're getting their raw materials from Asia?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's a big challenge and something that we were trying to look at it with USAID and other regions, because there's amazing products again coming from Africa, and a lot of the time they're going to Southeast Asia and getting processed and then sold back to South African companies to manufacture, just because it's they can do larger quantities and more consistent stuff. So, but there is amazing stuff coming out of Zambia and with Kalahari melon seed, even Botswana, Namibia, etc. as well. These kind of oils and stuff like that, which should be coming directly from Africa to produced in South Africa or in other parts of Africa into international markets.
Yes.
That's great. Awesome. Great. Oh, thank you so much for your time, Mariette, again. And looking forward to seeing your guys' expansion into the US. We know it is a daunting market, feeling like 50 countries in one, and so many big states and so many people, and the amount of money that you have to spend in that market to get your product on the shelf. But if you make it in the US, you got quite a good opportunity going forward for your company. So, but it is quite a daunting task. So thanks for your support in it. And I encourage, if there are other African associations and people interested, it's worthwhile connecting with Mariette and chatting with her. There's definitely opportunities both ways, either getting South African products into your market or getting your raw ingredients to be used by South African producers. There's that opportunity of intra-Africa trade that we really have to drive, especially with the Africa Free Trade Agreement getting stronger and stronger. Every time we turn around, there's more support on that and drive. I was on a call with a Moroccan company today, just talking about how difficult it is for them to work with Europe. Every time they turn around, the Europeans give more and more restrictions on getting their product into Europe, and they're really getting frustrated with it. And they want to start dealing with Africa more and the US and other regions now. So their traditional trade routes are changing. And I think that's much the same for lots of people accessing new markets. Thanks very much for your time, everybody. As mentioned, this is all recorded, so we'll be able to share that on LinkedIn. You'll be able to go back and reference this. We also do edit this from I think 2.5 hours now, or 2.25 hours, and down into a 3-minute outline of it, so you can really understand what's going on and share it with people you know. And please make sure to be in contact with me and my team. Cindy and I are here. Our program is specifically there for helping you get information about AGOA and trading with the US. So please, don't hesitate to contact us. I'm going to share again that slide, which gives you information. So getting customer support from Catalyze is pretty simple. It's just a matter of you filling in a form, tells us about your company, and then we are able to help us. There's no costs involved. It's a program funded by the USAID. And it really will give you information on your eligibility to get your product into the US through AGOA. If there's transport issues that you have and logistics issues, we've got specialists on that. My team and myself come in with trade opportunities as well and connections. So contact us. We will definitely help you getting into certain markets and getting information about that as well, but specifically the US market as an opportunity. Great. Well, thank you everybody for your time. We're going to end this now. And yeah, please don't hesitate to give me a shout if you need anything more. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Great. Bye.